All right, what's up, Giga Gamers? We're going to be looking at a patch review. We're looking at patch 12.9. Let's see what changes are in store for you. Here's the patch highlights. All right, first we have some massive changes to Olaf. Olaf is going to drop out of the early game and into the late game with these changes. Absolutely complete change. He's way more going to be into that bruiser Juggernaut build. Let's see some of the changes. We've got all of his scaling is going up. The passive is now granting the lifesteal, but they took it out of the W. It also gives less attack speed very early on, but it gives the maximum later. So a lot of changes that are going out. You're going to notice that a lot of trending is going to be for Olaf to be between 30 and 50% health. That's going to be his sweet spot. His undertow changes, can't cast it quite as often. Same impact, but the minimum range is going to be further. It's going to be a little bit harder to pick up axes and just kind of chain loot them. It might even be enough range to throw it through the rocks if you're not careful in the jungle. So there's going to be a lot of changes in his jungling pattern. So make sure you try them out in the practice tool before you get into them. The Tough It Out is a new ability instead of Vicious Strikes, which got moved into his passive. Now he gains this massive shield. And like I said, between 30 and 50% health is where you're going to be getting the maximum effect out of this. You can use your E to kind of affect your health and where you want to stay in the fight, but this is basically a Sterix gauge sized shield, absolutely massive. So you know the shield is a big part of it. The ability duration is only 4 seconds, so not a ton, but also has an active ability for the attack speed. So this is very much going to be a gauge where exactly in the fight you want to use it, because the use is going to be very important, but when you do, you're basically going to swing every fight in your direction. It also synergizes really well with Last Stand, because we're talking about being at that 50 to 30% threshold, so you're going to start getting that extra damage. Ragnarok completely changed now. You're not losing the resistances when you activate it, but the duration is shorter. But, and here's the big thing, infinite duration as long as you're attacking people. So I expect Trinity Force to be the go-to build on Olaf. Try it out, build sticky, get on people, stay on people, make sure that you've got enough movement speed to stay on them. Celerity might even be part of the equation now, just to make sure that we get that extra speed boost. But it's going to be a massive change. Olaf is going to be this big, bruisey, fighting Juggernaut. Going to be crazy fun to play. Taliyah, tons of changes to her scaling. Everything went down. Base mana went up, but scaling went down. So all of these things, right? It's all about more scaling. Sorry, better, slightly better early game, but then the scaling numbers go down. The passive is going to be a little bit better, more forgiving at moving away from the walls. The big difference is the threaded volley change. Basically, instead of having worked ground that you can cast one rock off of, instead now you're going to get basically a Gnar house throw, right? You're going to do the threaded volley, and then if you stay on the worked ground, then the next one's going to be a big boulder that's going to have some massive chunks. Completely new gameplay. Looks like it's going to be pretty strong, but we'll see exactly where the numbers lie. Seismic Shove no longer deals damage, is now just a knock-up ability, but it does go down to 0 for the mana cost, so when you level it up, it does become a combo piece. The Unraveled Earth changes in its functionality. Make sure you go into Practice Tool to really see it. It's going to be one dash. It's going to be like Morse code. Dot, dash, dot, dot. All right. It's going to be, you're going to hit one rock and then it flows out the rest. Make sure you're checking it out. It doesn't deal the extra damage on detonation. It does a lot less on the pass-through damage. This champion's completely changed, all right? Weaver's Wall, the big change is that you can't be knocked off the wall anymore, but any damage is going to stop you from being able to cast it. So a little bit more forgiving on jumping off. You can ride it as far as you want, and then you can always jump off on the side you want, so no more outplays on that from your enemies, but you will be able to move around in the fight. Ahri getting much needed nerfs. Spirit Rush, especially the first rank where she was crushing the game, moving up all the way to 140, so 2 minutes 20 seconds. That's a long ass cooldown. Charm 14 seconds, also a big deal. Much less likely that you get 2 of them off in a fight. Braum getting some serious love, all right, and this is in the face of the engaged supports that have been showing up, so Braum should be making a splash in competitive and in all ranks. The damage build from Hecarim is getting a slight buff. He's getting extra AD scaling on the Q, And the cooldown on Spirit of Dread is actually getting a nice 4-second buff. So a lot of extra healing. It looks like they're moving Hecarim into the I deal damage more to heal more, and I can have more uptime on Spirit of Dread. We'll see if that makes him impressive again. Master Yi was taking over late games. They took away a lot of the power from his end game ultimate. Nidalee was crushing it early. If you guys were taking advantage of that, props. We were certainly doing it, just chasing down everyone in the early game with ridiculously high starting base health. That's getting reduced by 30, so that her potential is a little bit lower. Pyke, some interesting changes, a little bit changes of where the cut is coming from. Mana refund more into actually hitting targets. They say that changes have brought Pyke more and more to mid. That's just because this champion belongs mid. He's not really a support. But these changes are meant to move him to support, so keep on trying him there. Should be fun. Renata Glask has been taking over. Base armor gets moving down, so now she's low range, lower armor. She's got a lot of weaknesses in lane, and specifically leverage. Her biggest strength, not only in the early game trading patterns, but also in late game objective takes, is being nerfed. So going to take a step down. These aren't massive, though. She still should be the premier anti-engage champion, and also there's still no one better around a pit in the endgame. Renekton getting a lot of buff to his scaling. All right, AD growth is going up. Health growth is going up. Ruthless Predator, the W, is going to be worse for cooldowns at early ranks, but at max ranks, it's going to be better. At rank 4, it's going to be this. Most people are only putting the 1 point in the W up until at least mid, if not late game. So basically, this is a nerf to it, but since we're talking about this champion as potentially more late game scaling, may be mitigated by the time you get there. The total damage, though, is going up by a fairly significant amount. If you rank it up, it's an extra 40 damage coming from it. Not huge, but not nothing. The R Dominus is also going to be dealing an extra 10, 20, and 30 damage per second. AP ratio on this, probably not relevant still, but maybe? I'm going to say probably not. Maybe there's a world where something like a Demonic Embrace makes it into a build like this, where he's already got a lot of bruisery health stacking that could help this out, but again, probably not. Rengar's been the best jungler. They are taking away some of his damage to monsters. I expect him to still be great. Shyvana getting multiple quality of life improvements. The burnout, this is still frustrating to me. 15 years ago, Heroes of Newerth figured out how to get damage to tick just on a rolling frequency. Why can't they do that? I feel like it's just better. They are improving it. The tick's going to be every half second. They did not put in the patch notes that the tick is decreasing in damage, but I think it's safe to assume that it is. If it's not, and this damage is just doubling from this spell, then it's a completely broken fix and expect it to be completely busted. The tank build on Shyvana is very strong. I recommend you check it out. You can do Iceborne Gauntlet, Demonic Embrace, Titanic Hydra. These sorts of items will all be very strong still. Scion losing 40% of his damage, and it says includes runes and items. Now, Demolish does say true damage, but the question will be whether or not this overrides it. It seems to imply that it's going to, but true damage is not supposed to be reduced by anything. So it would have to be very specifically coded. It'll depend how this actually comes up, whether or not the Demolish matters. Of course, this matters when you're taking those 1-for-1 dives under the turret and then using your passive and the Demolish proc to make sure that you get a turret hit. But this is going to take a lot of the havoc out of inting Scion builds. We'll see what this comes up. Thresh is just the consummately best support always. And he's getting slight buffs, extra soul, armor, and ability power. Varus, again, this is 4 straight changes going into his W Blighted Quiver to improve the AP and damage ratios on this. I think it's time. I think the days of lethality Varus are gone. I think it is a Nashor's Tooth rush. You can go Nashor's Tooth into Cosmic Drive, so you get that extra mobility. You can move around, make sure you're not getting hit, and then take your pick on the mythic items. Probably Riftmaker's going to be number 1, but there's going to be a lot of options, including up to something like Rocket Belt that just gets you around the fight faster. Hullbreaker, all right. I'm going to read this one because it's a little bit important. A lot of people get frustrated on this one. Hullbreaker is an important tool for empowering split pushing, but when rushed as a first item, its bountiful bonus resists can invalidate laning and lead to unpleasant experiences. We think it's still a valuable addition to the game since, unlike past split push items like ZZ Hullbreaker requires champions to stay in the lane they're split pushing. So we're nerfing the early game potency. The second time they're doing this. Alright, so the bonus resists while hunting alone from 20 to 60. It's 10 early, all right? And then it boosts up to 20 starting at levels 12. So basically, at level 12, and then specifically every level after that, it's going to get a bigger increase. All right, so rather than capping at 60, it's going to cap at 75. So the end game Hullbreaker split push stream is going to be a little bit stronger. Then again, you're still getting outscaled here. This is a pretty massive hit to the early game effectiveness of it. If you are ranged, it's half that. All right, so really weak on ranged champions. The Strider Hurls deals 20% bonus damage from all sources against structure. Only attacks deal 20% bonus damage against structures. Okay, so big nerf to the early game snowballing on this item. It's probably off the radar now. There are some champions that definitely want to be your split push champions that maybe a Shen for the end game wants this item now. Maybe after a third item Styx Gauge, you can go Hullbreaker and then say, I am actually a threat with my Titanic Force and my Titanic Hydra and my Hullbreaker in the side lane. You have to come answer me. Clash is coming up, couple client updates, bug fixes, check out to see if your champion's on here, and of course our favorite skins and chromas coming out, including the World Championship skins. Super hyped to get all of these. They look sick. And that's going to be that. That's patch 12.9 in a flash bang. Catch you guys on the Rift. Keep it surreal. Peace. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep it surreal. Peace.